I'm not going to lie. Part of me wishes that Q is somehow recording the conversation between him and Maurice in the next episode. Because I'm trying to wrap my mind around how in the world is Maurice allowed to come into the hospital room of the man that he shot. I'm serious right now. How is this a thing? Because ironically enough, this whole Sabrina and Maurice going to jail, losing their job thing happened as a result of his sarcastic mouth being recorded and turned over to Logan and the police. Now, imagine if Q is somehow recording Maurice's, not threat, but literal promise of count your days, they're numbered, I'm going to have you murdered. Imagine how bad that would be if Q or just the room in general was bugged. Maurice is on tape saying that to the guy he shot, and that's turned over to the police. What do you think is going to happen then? I don't feel bad for Q. I don't. But at the same time, I don't care about Maurice, because this is completely and painfully stupid. You have Sabrina and Calvin trying to scramble and put all the money they can together. Calvin's dad was willing to put up his own house. And of course, we know that eventually Sabrina was able to convince Bio to put up the 1.5 mil. But Maurice is proving every reason to not like him. Essentially having everyone scratching their heads like, wait a minute, why did Sabrina and Calvin want to get him out of jail again? It's like he's completely ignoring the fact that he's on bail. His actions are not only going to make things worse, but potentially land him back in jail. And then what is he going to do? Is he just going to sit around, bark orders over the phone, and give Sabrina and everybody else an attitude trying to get him out? No, they should have left his ass in jail. Call corporate, call corporate. She already called corporate, Maurice. And even if you... My thing is this. He wants to have a sit down and talk with somebody. Not that one woman that he claims looked like a diabetic foot or whatever. I really wish he could hear himself sometimes. Like, imagine you were one of the heads of the bank and you had to sit down with Maurice and Sabrina about this entire Q situation. And when you say the scenario, when you verbalize the scenario, how would this not look bad for these two? Like I've said before, the only reason Sabrina somewhat gets a pass is she was the one who thwarted the bank robbery. So it's weird for her to go from, oh, she's the mastermind to, well, she actually was the one responsible for making sure the bank was safe. So Maurice, on the other hand, let's just shift gears to him. All right, so Maurice, okay, you work at the branch where Sabrina Hollins is the manager, correct? Yes, I am. Okay, and then when the robbery took place, all right, you were being held at gunpoint. Yes, I sure was, and poor Sabrina was also at gunpoint as well to get behind the counter and try to open the safe, but it wouldn't, the vault wouldn't open at that time. And we have a Quincy, or Q. He was known to be the main person in charge of the robbery. Yes, he was. Yes, he was. He tried to steal my heart as well as all the money in the bank. Okay, and what's your connection to this man? Well, we met at a club, and he came over a couple of times, and next thing you know, he had me at gunpoint, and we're at the bank. So you met at the club. Was that your first time meeting him? Well, actually, one of my exes, Bootsy, he was in my apartment in my guest room, and he had Q in there, and it turned out that they didn't know I had a new roommate, Calvin, at the time, and Q actually robbed him. And this was before you two officially met. Yes. But you decided to still interact with him despite the fact that he robbed your roommate. Yes. All right. And after the robbery took place, the next communication you had was the phone calls that Q was sending you when he was arrested for the robbery. Yes. And he called you multiple times. Yes, he did. And some of these calls you actually took while you were on the clock at the bank. Yes, I did. So I have to ask you, why exactly would you let him stay in your apartment despite the fact that he held you at gunpoint? Well, it wasn't the only gun he was pointing in my direction. Okay. Why didn't you contact the police to let them know that you were a victim and you didn't feel comfortable having the person that held you at gunpoint staying in your apartment? I know that he was out with a ankle monitor and he needed a place to stay, but again, I want to ask you, why exactly did you let him do it? I didn't let him do anything. He pooped out my name and address. Again, you didn't call the police about that? No. Okay, and Miss Hollins, I need to ask you a couple of questions as well. But why? You said I was, innocent because I foiled the robbery. Oh, well, yes, because of you, the bank was saved. I'm not denying that, but there were at least 2 occasions where Q actually showed up to the bank's property, yet you did nothing. You didn't call corporate. You didn't call the police trying to, at least issue a restraining order or banning him from the premises. At one point, he actually came inside the bank with some flowers. Yeah, this is me taking a pause from my impressions of the meeting that would take place. You see what I mean? The more you say this shit out loud, the dumber it gets. Really, it just gets dumber and dumber and dumber. All right, so from there, Q took residency at your apartment for a while. Then he got a job at the airport. Then, of course, he recorded you confessing to being involved with the robbery and Sabrina was the mastermind. Well, that was sarcasm. Was it now? Okay. And yeah, this is the part where it's like anybody with any competence could tell it was sarcasm. But then you get to the point with the whole airport situation, and even though the apartment was robbed, you have Maurice shooting Q in self-defense, honestly. But overall, when you look at this apparent meeting that Maurice wants, it's not going to play out the way he wants it to. Because like I said, when you just sit down and go over this entire plot point from top to bottom, how can Maurice not look guilty? Seriously. Like I said, Sabrina is the least guilty in this scenario. She still has some guilt. But at the same time, it's one of those situations where I really do not understand why he's acting the way he's acting. No, really. I mean, why is Maurice acting like he can just go in there and make Q confess? It's not going to happen. It's not. All he had to do was call the police at the ending of season 5 about his car being robbed, and that would have hopefully begun to get things, in motion. But no, he decided to, I'm not you, Calvin. I'm going to go down there and make him do it. Really? Really? Lock his ass up. For real, this is just stupid. Alright, well, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. We know that these two eventually get their jobs back, but I don't know. It just makes no sense. Alright, well, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. As always, I do appreciate any feedback on the storylines. I just don't appreciate Maurice's attitude, constantly calling Sabrina out of her name, and then wondering, why are these two friends in the first place? Okay, I'll catch you in the next one.